Hey guys, it's Chanel. Welcome back to Sonel's Diary. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in July. So this is my July reading pile. These are the books I'm either currently reading or have already finished reading. Let's start by talking about the books that I have finished reading. So the first book that I finished this month was Heartstopper Volume 6. And this is the last graphic novel in the series. I am so sad that it's coming to an end, but it was just such an amazing experience reading this book. This book just felt so nostalgic, and I feel like it wrapped the series up pretty well. I feel so proud of Charlie and the fact that he became head boy. I feel like he's come so far. He and Nick both. And I feel like I've grown alongside them. So yeah, it's very bittersweet to be now parting with this series. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars, but my favorite book in this series is still Volume 4. I just love that book so much. I think it's the one I've reread the most. And if you haven't read this series, I would highly recommend it. The second book that I've finished reading this month is Clara and the Sun. And I actually finished reading this last night. I am quite shocked. I have a lot of thoughts about this book, so let's get into it. This book is set in a dystopian world where there are artificial friends, aka AFs. And basically these AFs are friends for children, but they are also robots. And this book is told from the perspective of Clara, who is an AF herself. And it begins with her in the shop where she is being displayed to be sold to potential customers. Eventually, she does get sold to this young girl called Josie. And another thing about this world is that you can choose to genetically modify your child when they are born. These kind of children are called lifted kids. And the purpose of lifting your kid is to make them more intelligent. And in this society, it's quite hard to get a good education and go to uni if you're not genetically modified to be intelligent, which is why Josie's parents chose to lift her. But lifting your child also has consequences because your child could potentially get really sick. And that has happened for both Josie and her sister Sal. But Sal has already passed away due to sickness, and Josie is currently sick when she buys Clara. Because this book is entirely told from the perspective of a robot, it is therefore third person limited, and so Clara is quite an unreliable narrator. Especially later in this book, if you've read the book, you'll know why. I would definitely recommend reading this book, but here is where the spoilers start, so be warned. I watched this video, I think it was called The Plot You Missed in Clara and the Sun. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. And basically Michaela explains this theory she has about the ending. I had actually not considered that when I first finished reading this book, because when I first read the ending, I thought that was kind of just a random 180. Like Josie magically became healed by the sun. And I didn't really understand why. I thought it was just kind of a miracle. The sun somehow listened to Clara's prayers. Like maybe the sun is some kind of divine being in this world. Also, it's important to note that Clara and all the other AFs are powered by the sun. So that is what gives them energy and the ability to move and interact with humans. The way that I first interpreted that was that they might be solar powered. That is what makes sense for me. As a human, but because Clara is a robot, the sun might seem as some kind of divine resource. It is what gives her a sort of life, and it's what keeps her going. But this is what Michaela's theory is. Her theory is that Josie never actually survived and never actually got healed by the sun. By then, Josie has actually been replaced by an AF. If you've read this book, you'll know that her mum was trying to continue her by creating a replica of her as an AF, and they were trying to get Clara to also continue her but put on a new skin of Josie, which is really creepy and gave me chills. After Clara meets Josie's dad, who is not for the idea of continuing Clara through a robot. Clara starts to believe that she might not actually be able to fully continue Josie, because before she was able to imitate her actions and her mannerisms, and if it was asked of her, she would have done it. Then Clara's dad starts speaking to her about whether or not an AF can really become a human if they don't have the human heart. Like, can Josie really be replaced by a robot? There's this quote from this book where Clara is speaking to the manager from the store at the end of the book, and she's saying, "Manager, I did all I could to learn Josie, and had it become necessary, I would have done my utmost. But I don't think it would have worked out so well. Not because I wouldn't have achieved accuracy, but however hard I tried, I believe now there would have remained something beyond my reach. The mother, Rick, Melania housekeeper, the father. I'd never reached what they felt for Josie in their hearts." So I think Clara suggests that a person is not only their own heart, but how they live in other people's hearts, especially Josie and all the people that loved her. And I think this is what makes Michaela's theory just seem so probable to me, because why did Josie and Rick, after Josie got better, just decided that they weren't really going to be in each other's futures? Why was the dad no longer visiting Josie if the dad loved Josie? And why was the only person that was really okay with Josie her mother? Because her mother was the one who wanted to continue Josie with the AF. And the mother's kind of crazy. I don't really like her. Why did the housekeeper suddenly leave and get replaced with a new housekeeper? I think all those signs point to the fact that Josie is not really alive. She did die because of being lifted, and that just gives me chills. I feel like right before Josie got revived, Clara was also not doing mentally okay. Like, she was quite literally malfunctioning, and that made her more unreliable of a narrator than ever before. I feel like I still don't completely understand the ending and why she was talking to manager. If anyone has thoughts on that scene, please let me know, because I don't really know the purpose of it. I'm not really sure why the author decided to end with Clara talking to the manager. I might have to think more on that. Overall, I think I'd give this book 4.6 stars. Okay, these last 3 books I am still currently reading. Let's start with the one I've made the most progress in, and that is I Could Give You the Moon. This book was a really exciting release for me because the main character of this book is called Chanel. And obviously that's the same name as me, and I've never read a book whose protagonist has the same name as me. And I might be a bit biased in saying this, but I think this might be one of my new favorite Anne Liang books. We get to see so much more of Chanel's character than in If You Could See the Sun, because in that book, she's painted as this perfect rich girl, very popular, very likable. She's still a human. She still struggles and feels insecure. Like, If You Could See the Sun, it shows what everyone else thinks of her, but also what her best friend thinks of her. Whereas in this book, you get to know her so much more intimately. Also love Aries. He's such a good character as well. I would highly recommend reading this, even though I'm not done yet. I think I have like less than 50 pages left. The next book I have started reading is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I am really liking this book as well. I feel like every book this month has so far been really good. This book is set in a society where books are basically illegal, so they have to be burnt by firemen, and firemen, instead of putting out fires, actually start fires. And this book is told from the perspective of a fireman himself, which is not what I expected. For some reason, I thought it would be from the perspective of someone who loved reading books and who was getting their books burnt. But I think this is even more interesting because at the beginning, he meets this 17-year-old girl. I forgot her name. I can't remember her name. But the thing she says to him makes him kind of question what he's doing and his role in society. She would always say things like, did you know that there was a time where, for example, firemen put out fires instead of starting them? Or she'd say, do you remember there was a time when people actually interacted with each other and communicated with each other, and that was considered normal? Guy Montag, which is the name of the protagonist, has never read a book. There was this one scene where this woman was not leaving the house, even when all the firemen came to burn her house because there was a lot of books in her house. The woman refused to leave and she decided to stay in the house as it burned down and die alongside her books. And that just made Guy Montag really think about why. What is so special about books? What is inside books that would make a woman die for them? Could she really not live without them? And also it was kind of distressing for him because he's never burnt a house with people inside of it. He's only burnt down houses with books inside of them. I'm only 70 pages into this book, so I'm gonna have to continue reading this and I'll let you guys know my updated thoughts. The last book I am currently reading right now is Twilight, the first book in this series. Let me tell you guys, I just love this book since page 1. I've just been really enjoying this. Has the entire book been kind of cringy? Yes. But have I loved it nonetheless? Also yes. I'm currently up to page 300 and I'm also up to the baseball scene, so I'm very excited because before reading this book, that is the only thing that I've seen from Twilight is the baseball scene in the movie where he's like yeah, okay, anyways. My friends know how much I've been loving this book because they've seen me read it and be obsessed with it. At the beginning, I just remember like it was actually hilarious every time Bella would be like, his handsome face, he's so majestic, his musical voice. I'd be like, it's hilarious. Oh my gosh, it was actually killing me, but I love it. It's great. And even though I haven't finished reading this book, I just know that I'm gonna continue reading the rest of this series. That is all that I'm gonna talk about for today. So I'll see you guys the next time I finish the book. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be this one because of how little have left. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye! I need to tell you guys something that happened while I was reading Twilight. So basically my friend was like, Chanel, the book that you're reading right now, it's coming true. It's becoming reality. I just saw it in the news and this is really crazy. And I was like, what? Vampires are real? Oh my gosh, vampires are actually real. This is crazy. And then she was like, no, the other book. The one with the sun. I was like, Clara and the Sun. Oh, that's even worse. So it turns out that the artificial friends are actually becoming real robots. Except they look really creepy. I think they're called humanoids, but I'm not really sure. That is really creepy though. My first thought was, why? Are we having a friendship crisis? Are we unable to find real humans to become friends with? So much so that we need to become friends with the robots now and replace real human connections. So yeah, now I'm wishing that it actually was the vampires that was coming to reality and not this, whatever this is. I have finished reading I Could Give You the Moon and I just absolutely loved the last 50 pages of this book, especially the epilogue. It was so cute and so heartfelt and so sweet. I'd say this book would have to tie first place with Never Thought I'd End Up Here as my favorite Anne Liang books. But also you should definitely read If You Could See the Sun first. Just so you know, some of the background characters and also Alice and Henry. I loved the chapter with Alice and Henry in this book so much. It was just so nice to see them again. It's like I was meeting up with an old friend. So I finished this one a couple days ago, but the book that I finished last night was Twilight. I read the last 100 pages so quickly. It felt very fast paced, but I don't know if that was just because I was reading it super fast because I was so anxious to see what happened next. The stakes became a lot higher and I was stressing. It also got quite bloody. I was really scared for Bella's life. If there wasn't an entire series after this book, I would be so scared that Bella was not going to make it alive. I was also scared that Bella would turn into a vampire. Wait, I don't know if I should spoil it. I feel like most people have already read this book. If you're watching this, you've probably already read this book. I would also give this 5 stars. Oh yeah, this is also 5 stars if I didn't mention that. I feel like I'm very easily entertained by books. It kind of seems like I'm just giving out 5 stars, but I genuinely love these books so much. I think it's just been a really good reading month. Like every book I've read this month has been amazing. And also I won't read past 100 pages of a book that I'm not enjoying at all. Think of it this way, the book that you're reading right now could be the last book you ever read. Wait, I don't know if that's helpful. That might actually be really unhelpful. Okay, I'm sorry guys. Saying that out loud just felt like it wasn't the same as it was in my head. Okay, anyways, moral of the story, read books that you like, aka Twilight, because you should read Twilight. I also have been continuing Fahrenheit 451 and I'm just over halfway now. It has been really good. I don't know if I've already told you guys this, but the reason why I decided to read this book was because I read a short story by Ray Bradbury called Kaleidoscope. I think it was a couple months ago, and I loved it so much that I wanted to read more of his works. So this is obviously a very famous one and it's a classic, so I was like, obviously I'm gonna give it a go. And I'm so glad I started this book because I'm really enjoying this. Turns out the book that he stole from the woman's house that she burned in was not the first book that he's stolen. He actually has so many of them, but a guy at his workplace knows that he has stolen a book, but he's unsure as to whether or not he knows exactly what type of book he was stolen, which turns out was the Bible. And Montag does not want to turn in the Bible because by the end of 24 hours, if he, as a fireman, has accidentally somehow taken a book from the house that he was burning, accidentally, then he has 24 hours to turn it in. But he doesn't want to turn it in. So he's wondering if he could turn in a different book from his collection, or if that would reveal that he actually has multiple books already. Because out of all his books, he does not want to give up the Bible, which I think is very interesting because in this society, the Bible is one of the first books that they burn. His copy of it is very, very rare. Another thing I've noticed about this society is that there are constant distractions. Everything is set up to not make people think, because when you think, you get sad and you start to recognize the flaws of the world, and the government does not want that. And that is why they hate books so much, because books allow people like Guy Montag to realize their privilege and to realize that while he is in America and he's living his life, there are other people in the world who are suffering, and that's what they don't want him to know. So he shows up to this former English teacher's house. His name is Faber, and he goes in and he brings in the Bible, and then Faber is obviously very interested. He hasn't seen the Bible in so long. Montag has come up with this sort of plan. He said, plant the books, turn in an alarm, and see the firemen's houses burn. Faber jokingly suggests that they could print extra books and arrange to have them hidden in firemen's houses all over the countries, so that seeds of suspicion would be sown among these arsonists, just like how the seeds of suspicion was sown into Guy Montag when he first saw a bit of a book. Because obviously all the firemen have at some point thought, what is it about these books? What is it inside these books that make them so dangerous, that require them to be burnt? And another thing about this society is that something they live by is if something isn't working out or if something is difficult, they burn it. And that is the same approach they have towards books. So yeah, that is all my thoughts so far on reading this, but I'm excited to share more thoughts once I finish reading this book. I think it's towards the end of the month now. Let me check the date. Okay, it's actually the 23rd of July. For some reason, I thought it was closer to the end of the month. So about a week left. I could definitely finish this book in a week. There's only 100 pages left. I'm very excited to watch the movie Twilight. It's gonna be so fun. Hey guys. So I watched the Twilight movie and then I bought this shirt. So yeah, it was great to see Edward sparkle in the sun. I think I sometimes sparkle in the sun because I wear glittery eyeshadow. I mean, not today. I'm wearing a bit of highlighter here, but other than that, I can sometimes be glittery as well. So my review of the movie is that I love it, and I'm super excited to read the next book. Yay! Hello everybody, it is the 30th of July and I actually finished reading Fahrenheit 451 a couple of days ago. I just didn't get around to talking about it, so I will now give you guys my review. And first of all, I just want to say that I absolutely loved this book. It was so amazing and I made so many annotations. I know I've previously said that I don't think there's a book that's for everyone, but I feel like everyone should read this book, even though some people might not enjoy the style of it. Like, it's kind of scary how relevant this book still is in today's society. I can now understand why they teach it in schools, because I just think everyone should read it. And I would especially recommend this book for people who don't read or don't really understand the point of reading books. I mean, I know people who think reading books is a waste of time and they view it more as a chore rather than something that's fun to do in their spare time, which, you know what? That's fair, because I was also one of those people in 2020 when I was in my reading slump. I was like, what is the point of reading? I just didn't really enjoy reading anymore during those few years, even though I was a huge book lover as a kid. A lot of people I've talked to have also experienced a similar thing around COVID-19 as well, so I don't know, maybe we were just all experiencing a reading slump during COVID-19. There was just a lot of things I loved about this book and I don't really know where to start. Okay, I really want to talk about when Guy Montag was a fugitive and he ran away after he kind of floated along this river and met a group of people. What I loved was when he first met this group of strangers, it was at a fireplace. I mean, not a fireplace, like a bonfire, a campfire. And for the first time, Montag sees the fire as something other than destructive. There's all these people sitting around a fireplace using it as warmth and using it as a gathering place, and it just feels safe and welcoming, and that is something he's never associated with fire before. And he starts to realize, could fire be more than a weapon? Another thing that I love is that every single person has a book that they've memorized or remember certain parts of, and they're basically like the human form of that book, and that is what they contribute to the group. And the thing is, they can't get that knowledge burnt out of them unless they die, obviously, but because they're carrying that knowledge in their minds and not as a physical book, they can't get that taken away from them. So as long as this group stays alive and carries down their knowledge to more people and more generations, then they can sustain their knowledge in a society that wants to destroy it. So they basically hide among society and pretend to be what society wants them to be, just to be left alone. But it's also hopeful, especially for Montag, to see that there are still people out there who don't want to destroy all the books. And as we know, Montag did have the Bible at some point, even though it is now gone because his house got burnt down. Actually, he burned his own house, but that was sort of his own punishment. Instead of seeing his house burn down, he burnt the house himself. And the strange thing is, he didn't just stop after burning books. He continued burning other parts of his house. I also loved when Granger starts talking about his grandfather. Granger talks about how much he misses his grandfather because of all the actions he did while he was alive, especially because he was a sculptor. So every day he mourns all the things that are untouched by his grandfather's hands, and it makes Montag wonder why the thought of his wife dying back in the city that is just about to be bombed doesn't actually make him that sad. He's wondering if he's a bad person for feeling this way. His wife could be in danger, she could die at any minute, and he's like, why do I not feel sad over that? So that's why after Granger says that, he says, I think of her hands, but I don't see them doing anything at all. They just hang there at their sides, or they just lie there on her lap. I think that says a lot about what Montag's wife is like, along with all her friends. And another thing about this group is that they don't hate on or look down upon the model citizens of society, the rule followers, because they were all once in their shoes as well. They know what it was like to be them, and so they don't think, oh well, I'm better than them because I know how important knowledge is and how important it is to feel things and to experience the world around you, not just burn down every minor inconvenience. Just the way that Ray Bradbury describes this war it's so well written. I also love the ending. It felt hopeful yet realistic. Oh my gosh, my light just turned off. Okay, so overall I gave this book 5 stars. I'm very glad I read this book, and yeah, that'll be my last book of the month. And also, as you can see, I'm back in my university dorm, and I started my 2nd ever semester of university. I'm very excited. I'm really loving it so far. Yeah, so thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and also comment what books you read this month or the books you're planning to read next month. Bye!